Hello there once again, and welcome to The Verdict. Mick Cornett, Kent Myers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And today we have interesting people and a topical issue, the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yes, we are really pleased today to welcome to the set of The Verdict the Thunder Voices, as we've called this show. If we would bring these guys on and they just start talking but not show their picture, our guests probably would understand, our viewers would know who they are. Brian Davis and Grant Long, the play-by-play and color announcer for the Thunder, are going to join us and talk about their lives.
And covering one of the most exciting teams in the National Basketball Association. We're talking Thunder today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
Well, prices at the pump are hitting new highs this week. In other news,
gasoline is expected to top $4 a gallon this week.
expect drivers seeing sticker shock at the pump.
OPEC has raised the price of oil again, and Wall Street worries.
Well, a full tank of gas is going to set drivers back.
Straight ahead, the latest news on
Meanwhile, gasoline is expected to
If you need big accounting firm expertise but aren't happy with the value or level of partner engagement from your current national firm, contact Hogan Taylor. Hogan Taylor provides national-level public accounting expertise with high-touch, local partner service in all areas of tax, audit, business valuation, and litigation support. Contact us at hogantaylor.com/The Verdict. Hogan Taylor, big enough to know, small enough to care.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. Kent's going to introduce today's guests.
Today we're really pleased to have two very familiar faces and voices join us on the Verdict. To my right is Brian Davis. Brian is the play-by-play announcer for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Did his undergraduate work in journalism at Northwestern University. Was a broadcaster in Chicago where he worked on with such teams as the Chicago Bulls. He broadcast some Olympic matters and some Stanley Cup playoffs. He has done play-by-play in football, basketball, and soccer in his broadcasting career. This is his 5th season with the team, and we're sure pleased you'd come back for your 2nd visit with us.
Glad to be back, Kent. Mick, good to see you guys again.
Yeah, great.
On my left is Grant Long. Grant is the color analyst for the Thunder, did his undergraduate work at Eastern Michigan, had a long, about 17-year NBA playing career with several teams. He did color with the Atlanta Hawks before joining our team as a color analyst. And I've got a few more statistics about Grant that I dug up. In his NBA career, he played in over 1,000 games, averaged almost 10 points a game in those 1,000 games. He was almost 50% field goal percentage shooting in those 1,000 games. And somebody else suffered the almost 3,000 fouls that he committed in his career. First visit. Welcome, Grant.
Thank you very much.
Do you still lead the Heat all-time in fouls and disqualifications?
You know what? I don't know. I haven't checked lately, but for a long time I did.
But fellas, he's top shelf.
I was the hatchet man. In hockey, they would call them the goons.
Yeah. Hey, when you're bringing in a player, you're kind of trying to predict how he's going to mesh in. How do people that bring in announcers work the chemistry between an analyst and a play-by-play guy? Is that part of the process?
Well, the backstory on that is that Grant and I met for the first time the night before we were introduced as the broadcast team. But the good news was that from the beginning there was an affinity there. You know, it's kind of like, I kind of like this guy. I think this is going to work, and you just go from there. And as time goes on, you sort of evolve and you figure out each other's styles and when to talk and when to shut up, that kind of thing, and it just sort of blossoms. The thing I love right now, G, is the way that we get on the air and it feels more like we're having a conversation rather than a tennis match where it's like, somebody talks and the other guy talks. I think right now we're, dare I say it, are we at the top of our game?
Yeah, I like the way it's conversational too, and I think for me, at its root, for me doing broadcast work, a few guys told me this, in particular Doc Rivers, when I first got into the business. He said, try to make it as conversational as you can and pretend that you're sitting on the sofa watching a game with your buddies. And in essence, that's what we're doing. We're talking about a game that we're watching, but you kind of might have to clean it up for television a little bit, because if you're sitting around with the guys, it might be a few beers on hand and so forth and so on, but you've got to clean it up for television, but it's as conversational as you could make it if you were sitting around with your buddies watching the game.
And philosophically, in television, the analyst is really should be the star, because your audience can see it. And so the way I was taught, kind of in the ESPN school of play-by-play, the play-by-play guy is the setup guy. So he's the guy who notices the what and, more importantly, the why. And I'll try to fill in with statistics and sort of game trends and things like that. But my role, to the best of my ability, is to set Grant up so that he can get off and run and use that 17 years worth of knowledge.
I'm guessing that the pregame preparation, you look at all the paperwork that's provided to you, and secondly, you talk to people. Grant, what percentage would you say is most helpful to you? The stat sheets that you can study of the previous games, or the conversations you might have with assistant coaches?
Conversations are way more important for me, because the stats come in handy when I want to back up a fact that I'm going to state. Then I can go to the stats, the box scores and so forth. But for the most part for me, I like to hear firsthand what the coaches and the players are saying, because it gives me that credibility that, hey, before this game, I talked to this coach, I talked to this player. I don't have to go back into the notes and say, well, this is what everybody else knows, because that's not necessarily public knowledge, but everybody that's doing the game today, they might have those same notes. But if I talk to them one-on-one individually, I'm going to get something that everybody else doesn't have, and that's where I want to kind of carve out my niche.
I'll second that. We're storytellers. More than anything, that's what we do, is we tell stories. And the most valuable information that we can provide to our audience is through those conversations that we have with players, with our coaching staff, or the visiting team's coaching staff. And over time, what's really nice about it is that you build a certain base of knowledge, so there's more up here and less on your game notes in front of you. And so that's probably the most important thing, but the most time-consuming thing for me is the statistical piece. You use the game notes. I go online, and through Fox Sports Oklahoma, we have a deal with Stats LLC, and I'll do custom stuff. I can get the raw numbers. Actually, I've got some software that downloads those raw numbers, points per game, shooting statistics, that kind of thing, right onto my laptop. I don't have to worry about that. So I can go and I can say, okay, well, in the last 6 games, Kevin Durant is shooting X, and his rebounding has gone to this, and his assists per game has gone to that, and try to put, in a statistical sense, try to put a player's performance and a team's performance into context that night.
And see, I think that may be the biggest difference between what he has to do and what I have to do, because I look at each game as like a Christmas, because each game is a surprise. You never know what that game is going to present. You just have to be ready to tell the story, and that's what I love about each individual game. A lot of people say, well, how can you do the same team over and over again? But each game gives you something very different.
And just real quick, a great example of kind of using the numbers. After the Golden State game, Russell Westbrook walked out of the building with his shooting percentage back up into the 40s, and his three-point percentage right to as good as it's ever been over the course of a full season in his career. And I went back a few days before that game, and I saw, well, the first 3 weeks of last season, Russell started a little bit slow and was shooting in the 30s. So in context, okay, does this prove that Russell Westbrook is a slow starter? Not necessarily, but what it means is that he's no different this year than he was last year. And I think that helps the audience to understand a little bit better.
What kind of interaction, if any, do you have with the broadcast team from the broadcasting folks of the opposing team?
This is like a big old fraternity, and it's, well, I can't use the line that I would use because we're on television, it's a family audience. But the bottom line is that over years, you get to know all these people, and you become friends with many of them, and it's a little bit like, he talks about Christmas. It's a reunion. Every game's a reunion, and you get with these guys, and you don't necessarily, because of it's a grind in the NBA. When you're home time is precious and valuable. On the road, the guys that are sitting in a hotel room in Oklahoma City are probably a little worn out, so you don't necessarily spend a lot of time going for drinks and dinner, but you spend time visiting at the arena, and you swap stories, and you can help them and they can help you understand things about your respective teams that wouldn't necessarily be obvious. So we use each other to trade information as well.
Grant, let me ask you a question in just a minute or so we got left in this segment. I'm not going to ask you who are the least cooperative players or coaches that you talk to on other teams. I'm going to ask you who are the more cooperative and friendly folks you deal with on other teams, names that our viewers would recognize.
Well, I'll kill that buzz right away. Everybody's been very cooperative. I think the thing that I have that a lot of others don't have is I actually play the game. So I know a lot of the players that are playing right now personally. So it's easy for me to walk up to a guy and have a conversation with them. And when you say who's the easiest, I mean, everybody. Tim Duncan is great. Kevin Garnett is great. Kobe Bryant, for me, is great. These guys really just open up and sit down and have conversations with you. For most of my conversation will start off with, you know, hey, Grant, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing right now. You're doing a great job. And just talking about what I've been doing and how I got into broadcasting and stuff like that. So that's how the conversation might start, but it might end with, okay, them giving me something about what their team is doing, what they're doing well, why they're struggling, if they're struggling at that time. So the guys are a plethora of information for me, but we have that relationship long before I got into the broadcast part of it.
Let me jump in and get us to a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about this year's version of the Oklahoma City Thunder and what might be ahead. We're visiting with Grant Long and Brian Davis of the Oklahoma City Thunder. We'll be right back. You're watching The Verdict.
The thing that has made the most sense for me is realizing that I am still an educator, and that is what I do at the Chickasaw Nation. I'm Dr. Amanda Cobb-Greetham. I'm a historian, and I'm Chickasaw. The Chickasaw Cultural Center is amazing. It is a very, very special place devoted to the sharing and to the celebration of Chickasaw history and culture. State-of-the-art technology, exhibits that are not like anything I've ever seen. The Spirit Forest is incredible, and you feel as if you have actually just walked into a forest with huge trees all around you. It's timeless, and yet it's sort of also representative of our time depth, to really just sort of reach through time and touch the past. By the end of the exhibits, you really have a sense of Chickasaw cultural and political resurgence and the extent to which we are a healthy, dynamic, and vital tribe today. Chickasaws have always been an inclusive people. This is something for the whole community and for the state of Oklahoma.
Hear that? It's the sound of an industry, 83,000 strong, creating jobs for nearly 350,000. A $52 billion a year being pumped into our economy. It's the sound of Oklahoma's oil and natural gas industry, our heart for the state and our people. And it beats on and on and on.
When you have something important to communicate, it becomes clear that there's a lot of competition for your audience's attention. So how can your message stand out and actually resonate with your audience? Legal Graphics has the answers. The team at Legal Graphics will work with you to plan, design, and even test your presentation to ensure your message will be heard and remembered. Call Legal Graphics today to schedule an appointment. The readiness is all.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Nick Cornett and Kent Myers. We're visiting with Brian Davis and Grant Long of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
I want to ask both of you the same question and get your respective answers. Neither of you being from Oklahoma City are here some good part of the year, if not the entire year. What has been the biggest surprise to you about your stay in Oklahoma City that maybe you didn't anticipate?
I think the thing that surprises me most, Kent, is that 4 years later, when people say, how do you like it there? I go, man, you can't beat the people. There are so many folks here to draw on my mother's people from West Virginia, and my grandmother had a phrase, never met a stranger. There's so many people here that never met a stranger and are willing to open their arms and share a kind word. And just, it's so easy to feel at home, and I feel like I've been an Oklahoman for 20 years and not just 4.
Yeah, it's been great for me also. As a player, I've been moved around, I've been traded, so I've lived in a whole lot of different places. But one of the 2 things that I have to find out when I get to a city is the 2 things that are important to me. First of all, the airport. How do I get to the airport? I need to know that route if there's going to be traffic, and to the practice facility where I'm at generally every day. So those 2 places I have to find immediately. And in between those places is where I find where people are, what they do, how the city is, in between those 2 different destinations. And throughout my time here, like Brian said, the people have just been open arms. They've been wonderful, and everywhere you go, it's not only just, we're glad the Thunder's here. It's just like, we're glad that you guys are part of our community now. And the team, the broadcast, everybody involved with this organization. And it's just been a welcoming committee that's been continuous from the day one, even up till now.
Let's now put you to work. We're taping this a couple of weeks before it airs, so something you say might be outdated, but it became apparent really early on this year that Kevin Durant was not shooting as often as he had previously. Did you pick up on that, and were you expecting that as he continues to evolve as a player?
Well, I think sometimes you have to do addition by subtraction, and this is a team that made it to the finals last year. And when you look at a player of his caliber, and he asks himself, and when he looks in the mirror, I'm sure he asks himself, what else can I do? And I thought he felt like that, maybe by him taking less shots, rebounding more, which his rebounding is up, his assist totals are up, that's going to help the ball club get over the next hump. You have to try and find new things that you can do to improve your team. And when it comes from one of the best guys on the team, it certainly has an impact, and I think that's where Kevin is.
There was quite a bit of pressure placed on Kevin Martin coming in, having to replace a guy that was very, very popular. The early returns are pretty strong. Are you impressed with what he's brought to the team?
No question about it. He has been everything you could ask for. His shooting is up to par. His defense is good. He's a great teammate. After talking to all the players on the team, he's a great teammate. And before I even go any further, let me say that players, after being traded myself at least 3 times and as signed as a free agent, players understand the business of the NBA. So personally, to lose a friend, yeah, they're hurt behind that, but they'll get over that. But the fact that Harden is no longer with the team, they'll get over that just as fast as the day is gone, because that's part of the business. You bring in Kevin Martin, he is as part of the team as Harden was when Harden was here. He's a teammate now. They received him with open arms. Everything that they offered Harden, they've offered Kevin Martin, and probably even more, to make him feel comfortable in this whole transition.
One more question to you. Thabit seems to have more offensive skills than I expected coming in. Not that he tears it up, but he has some upside.
Well, he's getting more minutes too.
Yeah, well, he's earning them.
Yeah, he's earning the minutes. Yeah. But I think also when you look at the core of this organization and this team, they're all about development, and you have to get better. You can't help but to get better.
But it appears that at least one team and maybe the league had given up on him. When Oklahoma City picked him up, it was a little bit of a stretch.
It was a stretch, and people would say, why are they doing that? Because he was let go by this team. He didn't get a whole lot of playing time with other teams. But all it takes is one. It takes one team that shows some interest in you that may feel like he may be the piece.
Yeah. This whole thing. It kind of feels like he's feeding off that.
As far as our personnel guys are concerned, he has no history. He is 7'3". He possesses certain God-given and physical gifts, but also some talents that we saw when he was a collegian at Connecticut. And he has no history. This is as if it's day one for him in the NBA, and the Thunder's job is to build him from that point into the player that I think is beginning to emerge.
He's a more aggressive player than I expected him to be.
Yeah. Success breeds to confidence. He's had success while he was on the floor.
I tell you, though, he follows the trend of the Thunder big men being more shot blockers than rebounds. And does that seem to be a pattern with the type of players they're looking for?
I think that you want rebounders. You need rebounders. I think the coaches for a couple of years would have been in a position where they'd like their guys to give up fewer offensive rebounds. But shot blocks, Scott Brooks says, blocks are like steals to us. They're game changers. They alter not only that moment, but they alter the mood and the tenor of the game. It's interesting to kind of see how this evolution will continue to play, because you talk about a guy like Kevin Martin. Well, Martin, Westbrook, Durant, volume shooters, but part of their mission this year is to reward the big men with touches to score down in the low post, and you're beginning to see an adjustment in that shot distribution. That's going to make the Thunder, in the end, a better team, because if everybody's going to touch the ball and have a chance to score, then that's a tougher team to guard. But Martin, where Durant and Westbrook are kind of isolation guys at their core, Martin can make so many plays without the basketball. He can move, he can spread the floor, he can pass, he can take the catch on the run. And when you're spreading the floor and making the defense play chase like that, everybody will get opportunities. And maybe back to your point, Mick, more shots will go in the basket, so there will be fewer opportunities for rebounds.
I think you guys attend practices, do you not?
Yes.
Why is that? Why does the announcing team attend practice, and what do you learn there?
Well, for the most part, it may be a new set that Scott Brooks might put in. Anything that might go on that other media might not be able to find out. Because we are close with the team, we get to find those things out first, and I think that's what probably the biggest advantage is. And also, you want to be familiar with the players. When you have a conversation with them, you don't want it to always be about basketball. You want to get to know these guys on a personal level, and I think that helps when we're always around the group.
And it really helps us to understand what's going on and to tell a more effective story. Again, back to the rebounding thing, the way that the Thunder is put together, those things that are normally the role of a certain guy at a certain position, the Thunder plays basketball a slightly different way. I think over time, people will look back at this era in Oklahoma City basketball history and say that team changed the way the NBA played the game. I'm still not entirely sure how that will be written in the end, but I feel there's an evolution in process, and we just to see our guys work from day to day helps us to understand that and then communicate it to the world at large.
Mm-hmm. A couple of teams in the Western Conference have changed dramatically on the floor, Houston and the Los Angeles Lakers. From watching highlights, from watching film, and from reading stats, Grant, what do you see these two teams looking different?
Well, obviously the Lakers acquiring Dwight Howard is going to make their whole team look a little bit different. You add Steve Nash to that mix, two-time MVP of the league, so I think their team is going to be very good once they get a handle on how they're going to play. They're a team that has the talent, but they have not figured out how to go through this door yet.
Are they going to figure that out? I mean, they're veteran players. They ought to be able to figure this out.
And that's what I would say. They're veteran players. They're all-star caliber players, and you just know that at some point that they're going to figure it out. And when you have that kind of talent, and teams go through it. Some teams get out of the gate early and they start to play very well. Like Memphis, they're playing very well early in the season, and some teams struggle to get out of the gate early. So I guarantee you Memphis at some point during this long season, they're going to have a skid where they struggle. And the Lakers, who struggled early, they're going to find a spot where they're going to play well for 10 or 12 games. That's just how the ebb and flow of the NBA is.
Is Houston going to need more time, or do you think they're ready
I
to
think
be a playoff team?
they will need more time. The two teams that really, to me, will be deeper into the hunt than they've been before, Memphis is one, and the Clippers are another. And the reason I say that, and I do think eventually the Lakers and Dallas will get it together a little bit. But those other two teams, the Clippers and the Grizzlies, now have enjoyed the benefit of continuity in their core group, just like the Thunder has. And obviously it got this team to the finals last year, and I think Oklahoma City will be right in the hunt at the top of the standings in the Western Conference when all is said and done at the end of the regular season. So the bottom line is Houston is better, Minnesota is better. The bar is higher, Mick, in the Western Conference generally. And the Thunder and everybody else better respect that on any given night.
We got about 30 seconds left. Spurs look like they're good again, though, too.
Spurs are always good.
I know. How do they do that?
Every single year, there's somebody that says, "Oh, Spurs are getting old." But that was 10 years ago. You were saying, and they're still good even now. So, what they do and what they've done over the course of their existence has always been consistent. They've always had good teams to operate their method of operation, their offense. No matter who you put in there, helps to have skilled players. But whoever runs their offense, they've always been good.
Scott Brooks says, very simply, Scott Brooks says in San Antonio, the three certain things in life are death, taxes, and Popovich winning 50 games.
And with that, we're going to end it. Brian Davis, Grant Long with the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's Fox Sports Southwest. We'll be back with the final word after this.
Thanks.
good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
You have children coming from a different lifestyle, different mindset. You have to open your arms and really do what you have to do to have that child become a part of your family. And if it's more patience, that's what you do. Kids gotta know they can trust you. And that's what we try to do with these kids.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. We are wrapping up a show with Grant Long and Brian Davis.
Thanks to our guests. They have very little time and they gave us a good bit.
Website information for you. First, how you can get more information on the Thunder and Brian and Grant. Their website is nba.com. Throw in a /Thunder and you'll go right to their team page. And then we have a website too. Love you to see it and tell us about a guest you'd like to see on The Verdict. It's theverdict.tv. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week right here on The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.